I'm sitting there at the hospital today next to my grandma. She's basically 1 week removed from a really nasty fall where she fractured her hip. Had to wait a couple of days, 3 or 4 days for all these medications that she usually takes for blood thinning to kind of wash away from her system, so she could go to the theater and have this operation, have this surgery to kind of have her hip replaced. And so she's 7 days on after that fall, a few days removed from that surgery, and she's finally resting in bed quietly, in a little bit of pain. I guess she was in agony for a few days there and just in absolute living hell. So I'm sitting there and I'm kind of on the other side of that whole ordeal with her. She's sleeping and I'm sitting there looking at her and picturing her when she used to be younger. When I was a child, in the village, she had this farm. She worked this farm, crops, animals, such a strong lady, worked all her life basically. When there was daylight, she was working. When there was no daylight, she was resting. It was that kind of life, a very, very hard life, very strong woman. She always had these big shoulders, big hips, big hands. She's just a hard worker. These people that live in these parts of the world, that work the earth daily, these people are hardy people. And so this is the type of individual that my grandma was. And now in her kind of mid-80s, after this hip fracture, she's basically at her weakest point in life. It's hard. I've been around this industry for a little while now, and this is kind of how it goes. Old people fall over, break something, then they have bed rest for a certain period of time, and then they catch a chest infection because they're not breathing effectively, they're not moving effectively, and there's just like a downward spiral. So I'm kind of sitting there worrying about all those thoughts, worrying about grandma and reminiscing on some of the experiences that we had together and how I grew up on the farm and all that sort of stuff. And I had this like feeling of like, my God, life is racing by, like it's just flying by. I remember grandma when she was really, really fit, and now she's kind of at her weakest. And so I thought to myself, man, like this life business, man, this whole experience that we call life, it's speeding up for me, man. Like I know like in physics that they talk about that the universe, like time is expanding. It's kind of like, this concept of time is a strange idea. And like, when I think about expanding time, expanding universe, I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't know what it is, but like when I was a teenager, time used to be like slower. Now that I'm in my 30s, man, time is just flying by, man. Like a day is just like, bang, gone. I don't know whether it's that because I have more going on in my head. I have more responsibilities to worry about. I have less free time to kill, if you will. But there's just more things on my mind. And I hear all the time people telling me, man, this life just flies by, man. Like you hit 40s, bang, speeds up to 50, speeds up against the 60s. All of a sudden you're 70, 80 and you're having a fall and you're freaking waiting for the surgery and you've got a metal hip and all sorts of things happening. I'm sitting there, I'm kind of absorbing all these things. I'm thinking about all these things and I'm like, man, if this doesn't motivate you, if this doesn't want to make you run through a freaking wall, if this doesn't want to make you attack these goals that you have, if this doesn't make you not care about what people say, not care about the criticisms that you receive, not care about, being embarrassed or all this sort of crap, man, just go after it, man, because if you let these moments go by, if you let these opportunities go by, they're gone. Time does not go backwards. You can't buy time. You could be Bill Gates, you could be the guy in that very same street as Bill Gates, begging on the damn street, right in front of Bill Gates' building. Everyone's got the same amount of, not the same amount of time, but we're all dealing with the same commodity, and that's time. Father Time is unbeaten. I hear this freaking said all the time in the sporting world. And I feel like time is flying by. And seeing my grandma today at the hospital in this state, I'm just like, it's hard to believe that she's in this state. But attrition, man, like this deteriorating disease we call aging is just, it's relentless, and it keeps going and going and going, and it makes me just appreciate. It motivates me to kind of do the things that I want to do. And so today I sat there next to grandma, had a few words, and then she kind of fell asleep again. She's freaking exhausted. So then after that, I went to the gym, and I just couldn't wait to attack. I couldn't wait to think about I couldn't wait to kind of devote energy into this thing that I have set in front of me, these goals that I have. I'm at my happiest when I'm training. There's very, very few other things that make me happier than training. And so it's very high on my list. It's a goal of mine. And a lot of you guys have asked me, like, what motivates you to squat every day? What motivates you to do this, that, the other? And to me, like, when I hear these questions, I sometimes think to myself, like, what do you mean, what motivates me, man? Time. Like, but then the very next thought is like, you can't be judging people for not having motivation, because we all have different experiences in life. We are products of our environments. So I basically grew up essentially like from the age of 20 basically, or even like 18, 17. Whenever I went to uni and started going to hospitals on placement, I grew up in hospitals. I grew up around old people, illnesses, death, pain, suffering, all that. I grew up on that. And so these ideas have been kind of brewing in my head for a very long time, man. Very long time. I've been thinking about some of these big problems. And so when somebody asks me like, what's motivating you? It's this, man. It's like life, like these big questions. Time is ticking, man. Like I don't have a lot of time left. And so do I want to squat today, or do I want to just sit down and waste my time? Of course I want to go squat. Of course I want to spend energy thinking about the problems that I have in my life, addressing these problems. But somebody else that hasn't had the same experiences as me, who's maybe grown up in the building industry, on building sites, they might not have thought about the things that I've thought about, but they've had other kind of cascade of thoughts that they've kind of benefited from. And so I can't criticize that person for not having the same thoughts as me, because they haven't had the same experience. Man, like, I hate to say this, man, but it's sad and it's disturbing. A lot of people are going to not like this, but there is a very powerful set of emotions that you get when you have to put somebody in a body bag. It's not something that you can kind of go in with a smile on your face, put a body in the bag and walk out and not feel anything. Like there's these emotions, there's this energy that you feel and makes you kind of think about what the hell you're doing on this planet. You're sort of imagining yourself in that person's, position. You're going to be in a body bag one day, man. And so what motivates me, man? Life, man. This idea as a child that I had that you could live forever. It's not, man. This thing comes around quick, man. It comes around real damn quick. And then before you know it, man, you got your prime's gone or whatever, like you're dealing with some other circumstances. And so a lot of the times, like we look back and we're like, man, if I had those years back, I would have done something differently. You can't rewind time, but use those kind of experiences to kind of plan your next day, plan your next step in life. A lot of us, man, like we drink alcohol, we take drugs, we do all these other things to kind of remove ourselves from reality, to kind of escape reality, to kind of have like a respite from reality. But I wonder to myself, like, is that the right thing to do? Are we escaping from something? Why don't we kind of man up and attack this reality that we're trying to avoid? Why don't we address some of these issues? Why don't we address some of these problems which are making us want to take these drugs and alcohol and kind of run away from our problems? Why don't we take certain steps to kind of address these things so our time on this damn planet is spent more fruitfully, so we have better existence, better experience in this life? I can't recall how many times I've spoken to people who are like on the later part of their life, who are kind of in that terminal phase of their illness, who speak like full freaking clarity, man. Full clarity. For somebody that has health, there's just smoke everywhere. We can't equate anything to anything. It's just mumbo jumbo. But somebody that has these big questions right on the front of their mind, like life and death, the terminal illness is here. These powerful emotions get all that smoke out of the way and you see life for what it is. And so when I have experiences with these people, when I have contact with these people, I'm just like, they tell me these things and I'm like, man, you see life for what it is. You don't have time to kind of waste on stupid things. Spend every day like it's your last. Cherish what you have in life, your family, your friends. Be happy. You can't afford to waste days being unhappy. And so even though some of these decisions are very difficult and there's a lot of things attached, you need to kind of work that crap out, man. That's what life is. You got to work that out so you're happy. Because sooner or later, you're going to be 85 with a fractured hip and you're going to be laying in bed. And it's not my grandma's fault for being in that position. It's just Father Time. He just catches up with all of us. And so when I spend time with the elderly, I just think to myself, I want to be in their position one day and I want to be proud of all the things, all the decisions that I made. I don't have time to waste, man. Don't have time. I think about my grandma and how strong she was and what kind of life she had. And, a lot of goodness there, a lot of goodness. But it makes me reflect on my life and question some of my decisions. What's keeping me back from making some of these decisions that make me more happier? What is it? Other people's criticisms, other people's opinions of me? That's all crap, man. These people are not going to be around. These people are just there like an obstacle. Get on with it, man. Live your life how you want to live it. This life is freaking flying by, man. If 10% of the stuff that I've heard is true, time is only getting quicker. Time is only accelerating. That's what it seems like. And in my small sample of life so far, in 32 years of life, I've definitely felt this acceleration of life, of time. It's getting quicker and quicker. So this concept of motivation, I feel like, it's a matter of being a product of your environment. If you're in the right environment, if you're around the elderly, which our society now doesn't even, cherish. The elderly there, our elderly in our society they're like books of wisdom. And the more you surround yourself with wisdom, the better your decisions are going to be today in your own personal life. But what do we do with our elderly? We forget about them, we throw them to the corner, we don't listen to them, we don't care about what they have to say because they're out of touch of today. We're out of touch of what's happening in today's world, the technology and all the events of today. But they've lived 80 years of their life, 70 years of their life. They have Father Time on their side, if you will. They've had experience. You have to sit there and listen because a lot of this stuff, a lot of these problems in life, they're just repeating themselves, just different forms. All these things, man, there's a lot of value in listening to elderly people. So that's kind of the feeling that I got today from being around my grandma. We didn't speak a whole lot because she was so tired. But just her presence there, was just me seeing her just changed everything, man. It just completely changes the way you look at everything. It motivated me. I wanted to run through brick walls. Even today, I was feeling sluggish and tired and all that. Motivation is not an issue for me because I think of life and death. The question is, how do you want to spend this precious commodity we have, which is time? This precious commodity, time, needs to be spent correctly. Don't waste it. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.